Hey everyone, this is Mike Moo here, and this is the world premiere of the first look review of the REMOVU K1 gimbal. Let's get started. Nighttime test out here. The REMOVU is a Korean company that actually designed and created a lot of competitive products to the GoPro line and the DJI Osmo. The REMOVU K1 is their latest design that is a self-stabilizing 4K camera. This is probably the best competitor to the DJI Osmo that I've ever used so far here in the States. The REMOVU K1 was actually backed way back on Indiegogo. It had a $350,000 US of funding received, which was over 700% of its actually funding goal. And it's set to be released on January 26, 2018. Now, if you're interested in pre-ordering this, please go ahead and check my link down on the screen and down below, and you can go ahead and be able to get this right on release date. All right, now why would you want to get the REMOVU K1? Well, it is a super nice, compact design system that is super lightweight. This weighs about 12 ounces right here. It includes a complete 4K camera on the gimbal that allows you to pan, do selfie vlogging style shots, and be completely stabilized and smooth with super easy to use user interface. It starts up in a couple of seconds. I've been using it for about 2 days now over here in Las Vegas, and it is just a real pleasure to use, especially compared to my normal driver, which is actually the DJI Osmo. This here is the DJI Osmo Plus. And one of the main benefits of this guy, as you can see easily, is that this has a built-in screen, whereas the DJI Osmo does not come with a screen. In fact, you have to stream to it via Wi-Fi with another smartphone. Also, there is a major size difference. Look at that. They're both 4K. They both record 4K at 30 frames per second and also 1080p. And this is just a lot easier to carry. It is a lot less obtrusive. And while both of these won't fit in your pocket, they could easily fit in a jacket pocket. Okay, so you got the screen, you got the 4K, you got a nice, easy, simple to use, one-handed user interface. And one of the other main benefits that you get from this is, that I've noticed, is this battery pack, which actually has a built-in micro USB connector, which makes it very easy to charge. If you've ever used a third-party solution such as the Osmo, you'll know you actually have to go around and use their charger, which is very cumbersome when everything else charges via USB and micro USB. This little battery here also gives you 4 hours of 1080p recording, 3 hours of 4K recording. To give you a bit of a comparison again with the DJI Osmo, this guy records maybe just over an hour to an hour and a half, depending on whether or not you buy the new high capacity batteries. And the batteries themselves are quite expensive when you get them directly from DJI, or you get the OEM version of DJI. So if you get the more expensive one, which is probably around $50, you're going to get maybe an hour and a half of recording. All right, another benefit of the REMOVU K1 is that you can easily tell how much battery life you have at a glance just by pressing the button that's actually built in on the bottom of all the batteries. And you press the button, it has 4 LED lights up, and even when it's in the unit, you can easily see at a glance just how much power is left. So those are some of the obvious benefits and differences between the REMOVU K1. Let's take a look at some more details about the K1. I want to say that the wide-angle lens is actually wider than the DJI Osmo, and we'll take a look at the specs side by side between the original DJI Osmo and the version that I have here, which is the DJI Osmo Plus, noted on the table here, because that's actually my main driver. All right, so some other features that are available on the REMOVU K1 is that you got the slow motion at 120 frames per second, which is full 1080p at 120. You also have a time-lapse feature that's already built in. And I should mention I'm running on really early software in my testing, so I did come across some bugs which I'm told were going to be fixed in a future firmware update. It also has the same similar selfie mode that you get with the DJI Osmo. You just do a triple click on the trigger that is found on the front of the unit over here. You do a triple click and that will automatically rotate the entire head back to record yourself. Now the focus length is 50 centimeters, so as long as you are holding it at pretty much arm's length and doing selfie mode, or if you're recording anything, everything else will be in focus. So 50 centimeters out to infinity is going to be in focus. So that's going to be fairly easy to go ahead and get everything properly recorded and in focus on a screen, as long as you're not recording anything really close. So this is probably not really great if you're trying to get a really nice close-up, maybe product shots, which is something that I use with the DJI Osmo, simply because it's not going to be as in focus. However, this could have an added benefit of making yourself look a little bit better. It gives you a nice little hazed look, kind of like a Photoshop look, depending on how far, or brushed look, if you will, depending on how far you hold it from you. Again, the battery life is pretty amazing. I've only used it to record up to 2 hours in one day, and true to what it was estimated, the battery meter showed that I still had about 2 bars left. Now the unit actually doesn't come with much of any accessories, mostly because everything you need already comes with it. You don't even need the external charger. So they again highlight that you don't need to carry an additional charger. I was not able to try the REMOVU K1 app because it's not out yet. I imagine this will be released roughly around the time when it actually gets officially released to the United States market in January 26th and later. But if you want to go ahead and check out the REMOVU YouTube page, they actually show you some features and demos of what you can do with the app. I imagine it's going to allow you to give a lot of control and customizations and firmware updates directly to the unit. Now you're probably wondering exactly how good the video quality is. And again, I spent about a day, roughly about 5 hours of footage recording around here in Las Vegas, and I will show that in a separate video. So you can go ahead and check that out and compare it with the DJI Osmo. Now we're going to take a look at some of the technical specifications here. If this doesn't interest you, go ahead and check out my next follow-up video with sample footage. All right. So the processing is the Umbrella A12S75. This is a pretty tried and true processor. It is used in a lot of other products. Same thing with the Sony sensor. This is one of the higher end Sony sensors that was introduced in 2016. It is still really good. It is also the same 12 megapixels as the DJI Osmo. The lens itself is 101 degrees, so this will cover a wider range of focal length, which means if you generally like to record a wide scape, kind of similar to a GoPro, this is going to be the perfect match for you. The focus range again is from 50 centimeters to infinity onwards, so don't expect to do really close-ups, let's say, of maybe a sushi roll or anything like that. You're going to have to hold it back a bit. So this is more useful for action and also vlogging. Maximum image size is 12 megapixels, so it'll be 4,000 by 3,000 pixels. You got some still photo shooting modes. We got single shot, burst photo, time lapse, which is normal, and motion. The motion is something that is really awesome, something that you can do with only with a motorized type of gimbal with something this small. There's nothing else like that, like this on the market that can do true on motion. In my testing, I should say that we ran into some issues with the gimbal, but I think that that might be related to something I'm going to talk about later once we get to the gimbal section. Video modes, you got regular video, 4K, 1080p. I should mention down here, when you take a look at video resolutions, you will notice a couple of things missing. There is no 24 frames per second mode on here. So if you're looking for something cinematic at 24 frames per second, it is not currently supported. However, this is something that could be updated in firmware. So this is some additional mode that you can add on. But what's really useful is you got full HD at up to 120 frames per second. So if you want a nice slow motion cinematic feel to it, you can do that straight on with full HD. Supported memory cards has up to 128 gigabytes max, and I've only used up to 64. So I was not testing that, but it seemed to work just fine on here. The gimbal. This part is where I'm a little bit disappointed, mostly because of the panning range. The panning range is at -75 degrees to positive 255 degrees. I'm used to the Osmo's panning range, which is completely at plus or minus 333 degrees. So where does this not work out well for me? Well, over on a CS show floor, as I was walking along the pathway, sometimes I want to record all the way to the left as I'm walking along, and I'll show you some sample footage of how that works. And this can't do it. So the way to get around that is, of course, to actually just rotate the handle towards that direction and record. But if you plan on using the little joystick down here below to get that range, you're going to be disappointed and you're not going to be able to do it. So this is purely something that is more useful if you use it by rotating the actual handle, right, to cover that whole full-on range. Because check this out, at -75 degrees, I'm not able to get the full-on 90 degrees or more that I'm used to on the DJI Osmo. The tilt range is -48 to 108, no problems there. The pan range is again the problem that I had with it, and the roll range is -60 to positive 60. You'll see the DJI specifications over here are, you know, in some areas the controllable range is better on the K1. In some areas it's better on the Osmo, but clearly the panning range is something to be lacking. So that's something that you may want to consider depending on how you plan on using the K1. All right, the system, the battery pack is 2,900 milliamp hours. Again, that is up to 4 hours of continuous recording with Wi-Fi off, or 3 hours noted at 4K. The weight is 340 grams. That includes the battery, so that roughly translates to about 12 ounces in the US versus the DJI Osmo at about 16 ounces, including the battery and the cell phone holder thing that you actually have to use in order to see, unless you want to separately mount a monitor. All right, so there's that. And then finally, we have a smartphone app, which I was not able to test, so we'll definitely update you on how that works out later if I still have access to this camera. Again, in case I didn't mention it earlier on, this is on loan to me. So next time I am able to try that out with the new firmware, we'll go ahead and report back and let you know how all that works. All right, we're going to take a look at some of the physical features on the REMOVU K1. So you have a 1.5 inch LCD screen, not the best quality, but what do you expect for $429? In the front here, before you can use it, there's actually a gimbal lock, which you want to go ahead and unlock. And then similar to the DJI Osmo, and I'm referring that to a lot because that is, again, my main driver, you have to go ahead and rotate this down to unlock it. So now it's unlocked and ready to go. While we're here in the front, you can see that there is actually what appears to be speakers, so that you can do some playback directly from the unit and see how your recording went. There's the front trigger that controls different modes, including auto follow and panning modes, and also selfie modes. So there could be some additional modes added later on depending on what firmware update that you are operating on. Over to the side we have the very important microphone jack, which is standard 1/8 inch, and I do believe that this provides plug-in power to the microphone, so that could be useful to you. And then this supports micro SD cards in here that you can buy. You definitely want to get the fastest that you can afford, and it supports up to 256 gigabytes at this time. But that's something that can be updated in firmware. Over on this side is the on-off switch, and again the microphone or speaker jack right over there. Now in the front of the unit here we have a control stick. We got the default recording button right over there. You just press that to start recording, and this to take a photo. And then we have the menu button down here. So it's pretty simple. There's not a whole ton of buttons on here to go ahead and use. And on the bottom, while the battery is also connected, if you press this little button down here, you can go ahead and see how much battery you have left. So if I press that there, this will light up and show you in 25% increments just how much battery life you have left. So basically each one of these is probably an hour, 30 minutes to an hour depending on what recording mode and whether or not you have Wi-Fi going or not. At the bottom of all these battery packs, this is pretty ingenious and not available on the DJI Osmo except for the new Osmo Mobile 2, is that you have a standard tripod socket mount here. So this is tripod ready, right off the bat. You don't need to buy anything else. And then you have two little connector points here so that you can use their charging dock or other accessories to go ahead and just place it down and charge. And also micro USB here on the back of the battery pack itself. So you could just plug your own micro USB cable in here. This is such a lifesaver because everything charges via USB these days. There's also a lanyard loop down here below, so you can go ahead and make sure that if you are holding this around, you can wrap that around your wrist so that you won't drop it. It just gives you a more secure hold. I gotta say the actual feeling and ergonomics is pretty much spot on for my hands, and I have relatively large hands, so it seems to work and feel pretty comfortable. The whole thing appears to be made of, the body is composed of some high quality plastic, and yeah, something that I kind of expect for something this price range and also this weight. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this first look review of the REMOVU K1. I'm gonna go ahead and head out and shoot some footage for you. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you very much for watching. I will catch you in the next video.